everyone, I'm Leslie Bravo and welcome back to For a Better Day podcast. Today we have a very, very special guest, somebody that is super experienced in the mental health field, and she's a clinician, specialized in behavioral health. So let me introduce you to...
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Ivy. I am a registered mental health counselor in Tamarack, Florida. I'm also an author. I have about 11 years of experience in the mental health field, ranging from community case management, community mental health, as well as being in the inpatient hospital setting. So thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. We have so many questions. This June is Father's Day month.
Yes.
Also, this week is mental health week. And we have so many questions about, last podcast we were talking about father, the presence of a father in a home and how that impacts our children. So if you can give us some feedback in regards to that topic and based on your experience of, the importance of a father in a home.
Absolutely, yeah. So, the presence of the father is important in several aspects, right? We have, for the upbringing of the child, whether it's male or female, children need the presence of the father in the home. Even for me, I grew up with both mother and father in the home, and it allowed me to see both roles. What does that look like? The father being the support, the head of the household, and understanding where, what the role of the man and the female is in the home, and it helps with the mental health and helping with coping and having being able to identify, okay, this is mom, I go to mom for this is dad, I go to dad for this, and just having that support. It's very important to feel supported as a child. So I believe that it's superbly important to have both parents, but the father figure in the home especially is meaningful for children. So, yeah.
Not only the provider, but also be somebody that they can feel comfortable with, that
Absolutely.
They can talk to, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was listening to TED podcast, and there was a topic that caught my eye, that was very interesting to me. It was the fatherless homes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of children in our society that they grow up without father. And not necessarily speaking about a father not being at the house, but there's so many types of experiences of fatherless. And based on that TED podcast, they came out with 8 types of experiences, different experiences of fatherless. One is the Disney dad. And this is, I'm sorry, can I go back? Okay, sorry. So I'm going to go back since the lifelong impact of absent father. So I was listening to a TED podcast, and it was speaking about father experiences, that there's so many different father experiences. And they came out with 8. And I'm going to read them to you, and then we can, go one by one. They talk about the Disney dad. Disney dad is so important because that's the dad that goes to the game with us, is part of, the school plays.
The perfect dad.
Exactly. He's always
Yeah.
so, aware of what the needs of the kids are, and the kids feel comfortable to go to them. Also, it talks about the hollow dad, the dad that is at home, but is completely disconnected of what's happening with the child. The temperamental dad, a dad perhaps that, is very irritable, somebody that it has short temper, that it could become somehow abusive with the family. The peekaboo dad is the dad that is in and out of the children's life. The hide and go seek dad, that they hide and seek, that they're not always there, but they're hiding, and the kids have to look
Go
for the
seek
dad
for
and
the-
then reach out for the dad. There is, it's just, it's unfair. Then losing a father, most cases due to divorce,
Yeah.
and that affects the kid's behavior, and it's very impactful. The invisible dad, the dad that you know you have a dad, but he's never there, you never met him. And losing a dad, the dad that is not there because they're considered the angel dads, right? That somebody that passed and unfortunately is not able to be in the children's life. So the image of a father in the house has, based on my experience, because I'm not a clinician, I'm not experienced in that field of mental health, but the experience that I have from connecting with many individuals is that it completely affects their behaviors, their self-esteem, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about, based on your experience, the effects that the fatherless has in the children?
Yeah, so based on my experience, I've noticed that, children that don't have a father figure in the home, kids, they are irritable as well. Sometimes they are closed off. They don't want to share their feelings. They struggle in school. They struggle to communicate, and they almost feel like they're missing a part of them, right? Because dad is a part of them. And from what I've noticed, especially with children in the hospital, they don't really feel like they're seen. They feel like, okay, dad is gone and dad took a part of me and that's it. So for children, especially little boys, I think when the father is not in the home, they almost feel like as if they're, like I said, not seen in the home, and they have to rely on just that one parent in the home to provide them the support that they need. And even sometimes for the mother or the parent that is in that house, it can become overwhelming, and they're not able to provide all the needs that the child has for themselves. So,
Based on studies, right, shows that children that grow up with the two parents at home are more likely to be more emotional, educationally, socially, and behavioral more predominant, because they have the support of both parents, and they have a lot of times the structure from both parents, and therefore it's also, the studies also show that kids that they have the absent parent, or they have only a single parent, which in most cases are the female parent,
yeah,
are already in disadvantage.
absolutely, I agree. Yeah, I think, especially when you're talking about boys, it's already, this big stigma, boys don't talk about their, they don't cry, they don't talk about their feelings. And so when you have an absent parent and they've already been conditioned okay, this is how a boy behaves, it becomes even more difficult, because it's okay, well, I'm not supposed to talk about how I feel. So dad is gone, I'm sad, I don't want to talk about it with mom because maybe mom is sad too. So for the kid, I think they start to struggle emotionally, because they don't really know they don't really think it's okay to talk about how they're feeling. And the father not being in the home, that could even be something that they don't fully understand, because they're not being explained to, okay, this is why dad is not here, or this is why, what happened to dad. So for kids, for little boys, that will eventually grow up to be men, they're taught, if they're taught at the young age, men don't talk about their feelings. I didn't have a father in the home teaching me to talk about my feelings. They become, that second generation of men that don't talk about their feelings, that are avoidant, that are irritable or poor communicators. So it's a long-term problem because then these boys become men.
Becomes a systematic issue
Yeah.
because if they don't have the experience
Yeah.
of having a father. They don't know how is it to be a father.
Yeah.
How can they possibly teach their kids, right?
Yeah.
Wow, it's a global issue.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a global issue. There's so many different scenarios that we must understand how to help our children to get through these scenarios when it comes to, perhaps if the father is not around the house, it affects, like we mentioned before, their self-esteem. And they feel guilty. They don't know why the father left, and a lot of times that
they blame themselves.
Right?
Yeah. Or was it my fault? Did I do something wrong? Maybe. And then they start to question themselves, like, maybe if I would have done this differently, would daddy have stayed? Or if I, behaved better, would dad have stayed? Or, there could be a lot of questions. And like you mentioned before, they may not even want to talk about it with the parent that is in the home. And it becomes like a self-blaming problem.
Not only self-blaming, but they also could blame the parent, the other parent, and no matter what the other parent can do, because I've seen cases like that. They came to me, like I said, I'm not a professional, based on my experience with the public in general, that I try to assist and link them with the services that they need, but they come to me and I hear their stories, and sometimes the kids blame them for the parent not being there, and that becomes a bigger issue because when the kids reaches to a certain age, then they can run away from home and start developing risky behaviors.
Yeah.
So it's a big issue. So I was also paying attention to some statistics from online that I was doing some research. It shows that 70% of African American kids grow up in a single family home. And the majority, of course, are only raised by their mom.
Yeah.
Of course. Also, 80% of pregnancies come from girls with an absent father. A lot of times they said that girls that they don't have a father, they're more vulnerable to human trafficking.
Yep.
Can you, based on your experience, let us know a little bit more about that? Have you ever experienced cases like that?
I don't have much experience working with trafficked individuals, but I can say that when you have an absent father and you don't have that emotional support that a father provides, you are more vulnerable to or susceptible to doing things that you wouldn't have done if you did have a father, such as trafficking or promiscuity, things like that, running away from home. Based on my experience as far as being inpatient in the hospital, we do see a lot of children that are more willing to be promiscuous because, well, who's going to stop me? There's no one, mom's at work. I don't have a dad in the home. Like, who's going to stop me? Who's going to tell me no, not to do it? So it is a problem. And if we don't have someone that steps in and says, okay, I'm going to be your father figure, or I'm going to show you how things are done, these kids fall through the cracks.
Mentorships.
Yeah.
Mentorship. It's nice that you mentioned about the HIV and risky sexual behaviors and substance abuse behaviors, because that is something that I do have direct contact with. I am a certified counselor, and actually I provide free HIV testing and screening to all ages, and actually I'm part of the surveillance team working together with the Department of Health in Palm Beach to monitor these cases. And this is how I have the connection with a lot of individuals, and I see that everything is rooted, all their issues that they currently have and the risky behaviors that they develop until now that I met them is based on either absent parents or toxic households, everything related and ACEs. And this is what we spoke at the last podcast, ACEs, traumatic experiences that happen in early childhood. So, and divorce has huge correlation with ACEs, and divorce generates the absence of a male figure.
Yeah, and a lot of times, whenever a couple divorces, more than likely the children go with the mother, right? And so it creates a situation where the mother is the one that's being blamed, and that alone is traumatic for the mother as well. So as far as ACEs,
Adverse childhood experiences.
adverse childhood. As far as the ACEs go,
Your time.
let me go.
No worries.
Oh God. When a couple separates and the child more than likely goes with the mother, that alone is traumatic in itself, because now, okay, I'm going from being in a two-parent household where even financially, things were provided by two parents. Now it's a single parent and everything is split. Mom has her life, dad has his life, and we no longer are doing things as a unit. And that impacts the child tremendously. For example, if you want to go to the movies, Mom, let's go to the movies with Dad. Oh, well, Dad can't come to the movies. Now it's just us. So that alone, it's like, okay, well, we used to go to the movies together, and now that we're not together, we can't go to the movies together. And that creates movies can be something that is like a childhood memory. And it's like, now, okay, that childhood memory, that positive childhood memory is gone.
The quality of time.
Yeah.
As you mentioned before, when parents split, the financial, economic impact is huge, because now you have two different households. So the income is divided. The parent that is going one way has to be paying for homes, rent, basic essentials, and then the mom has to do the same with the child.
Yeah.
So therefore, now if you're able to have enough money for entertainment or recreational, you don't as a parent.
Yeah.
And not only that, even if you do, a lot of parents have to work long hours to be able to compensate the income coming from the other parent.
Yep.
And therefore the kid end up being raised on their own, or with the TV or with the internet, and that puts them completely at risk of so many outside influences that not always are good influences.
Yeah. And even if you consider the fact that even if the kid is not being raised by YouTube or the TV, they're being raised by other individuals, right? So mom may bring the kid to grandma or bring them to the aunt, and that's another person in the child's life that you have to consider, because are their values the same as yours? Are they going to be as watchful as you are? Are they going to tell the child or stop the child from watching certain things that you wouldn't necessarily allow them to? So they're being raised by multiple family members, and now it's different, because, okay, I go to grandma's house and I do things one way, and then I come to mom's house, I do things another way, then I have to go to dad's house and do things another way, and it becomes this life-changing moment for the child, because things are no longer the same, and they now have to adjust. And depending on how long or how old the child is when the divorce happens, now they're having to learn a whole new way of being, a whole new way of living, because mom and dad are no longer together.
Wow. So as there are so many problems with the absent parent, we have to recognize that there are amazing fathers out there.
Absolutely.
Even divorced parents, I mean, can you explain a little bit about, how parenting, even a divorced parents, can actually co-parent a kid and still be very beneficial for their well-being, even though they're not together?
Yeah. So from my experience, just to speak personally, my son's father and I were not together, but we both do such a good job of co-parenting our son, because at the end of the day, the child is the most important. So when it comes to co-parenting, communication is number one. You have to communicate with the child, especially if their level of understanding is enough to where if you're communicating, it's beneficial, right? So with my son, we make sure that we're communicating, hey, on this day, this is how it's going to happen. On that day, this is how it's going to happen, and making sure that you stay on that schedule. If you deviate from it, they'll catch you and they're like, hey, wait a second, you said Mondays, I was doing this, or, dad is doing this on Saturdays. But staying true to your word, that matters, because then it's like, okay, yes, mom and dad are separated. However, they stayed true to their word. They were there when it counted. Making sure that when there are school events that both parents are present. When you and the parent or the other parent are interacting, making sure it's positive and that they're still seeing, okay, mom and dad can interact with each other positively. And even though they're not together, they're still my parents, and they're showing me positive ways that two people can communicate with one another even though they're not together. Separation, divorce, it doesn't always have to be a negative thing. Sometimes it benefits the child that you guys aren't together, because toxic living environments aren't good for the child either. But you have to communicate with your partner and make sure that you both have a level of understanding, okay, this is how we're going to raise the child or the children, and stay true to that. Stay on the course and communicate with the child.
Kudos to you and the dad of your child, because not many fathers are like that. But also, I forgot what I was going to say. Something important. I forgot. Completely forgot, but it was important. Yeah, kudos to that. Anyways, I forgot. Well, it was amazing to have you here. To bring a little bit of light to this topic that is very sensitive. It's a little sad topic, because we would like to help a lot of kids that are going through really difficult times, not able to have that figure at home that can help them and guide them and give them a structure for the brighter future. However, there are a lot of organizations out there that are willing to lend a hand. There are organizations out there like Big Brother and other organizations that provide resources for families that are struggling with this specific topic. We are going to try to put together a list of those resources and make it available to as many people as we can through events that we have, outreach events that we have, because it's very important that we come together to help those children, because there is a bright future ahead, and there is still opportunities to help them grow up and become what they meant to be.
Yeah. I also wanted to mention that one of the most important things that I think when you're going through a divorce or a separation is tapping into, like you said, the community resources that are out there, involving the child in therapy, because sometimes the child may not be comfortable talking about what's going on with mom or dad, whether they have a good relationship with them or not. But maybe having a therapist that is biased, even if it's a short-term therapy, a couple weeks, 3 to 6 months, while you guys are going through that transition, making sure that the child has someone that they can communicate with. Even at schools, they have, excuse me, they have schools counselors. They have someone at the school that is based there that the child can talk to, letting the professionals at the schools know that, hey, my child is going through a transition. This is what's going on, and making it known so that they can look for the warning signs if the child is not doing well. Yeah. Your community is also a resource. You don't forget that grandma, the principal at the school, the assistant principal, the teacher, making sure that the nurses at the school, everyone is aware, so that they rally around your children, so that it's not just, okay, my kid is going through this, we're going to figure it out. No, everyone can help you figure it out. It's not just you. You're not in it alone.
Yes, getting involved, somebody that is professional, somebody that is experienced, will be very beneficial. And this is what I forgot a minute ago, and I just remember, speaking when the parents are separated, speaking positive, and making sure that they don't speak negative about the other parent is super important.
Definitely. I agree. I made it a point when I was going through my separation, I never blamed my my partner. I never said, you know, dad is the reason, you know, that we're doing this, because essentially everyone had a part in it, right? So if you're blaming the child, it puts them in a really awkward position, because now not only are you teaching them like, okay, my dad is bad because of X, Y, and Z, you're also showing them how, you know, like negative ways to talk about their father. And it's not beneficial in any way, shape, or form, because children look at their parents and it's like, oh, this is my perfect parent. And you always want to maintain that, because society or life itself will show them that life isn't perfect. But as their children and as they're young, you want them to still maintain that innocence that they always have for their parents, and you don't want to be the one to taint that.
Exactly. So I'm so happy you were able to make it tonight. Thank you for your time, and thank you for all the experience that you have and all that you do for the community, and for being here, you know, helping us, help us understand a little bit more and how can we help those children that need so much help. I would like to ask the audience, all the fathers out there, to close their eyes and think, what would be a father figure that you would love to have? Now, once you have the image in your mind, open your eyes and please be that figure for your children. Be that figure for your child. So, thank you so much, and we have a very big surprise. Our talented lady here, she's going to introduce something very special to the community, and it's available in Amazon. So please.
So I'm an author. I wrote a book. It's called Cameron's First Day. And Cameron's First Day is basically about the journey of my son's first day of school and the anxiety that he felt that day, and pretty much me as a clinician, as a mom, trying to help him through that day and using deep breathing as a skill so that he could cope with his day. It's like she said, it's available on Amazon. I would love for you guys to check it out. I will provide the link so that you guys can purchase if you need to.
And it's coming from somebody that is very experienced. So please go ahead, support the cause.
Thank you.
Support the children. Let's get us informed and educate ourselves on how to educate a better community. So thank you again for everything. Thank you again for your time. And until next time.